Good time zone, cats and kittens. You're listening to Harmonized, the podcast for the streamer looking to balance work, stream, and everything in between. I am KiittyPls, your host, and today I'm so excited to share with you an episode with someone very near and dear to my heart. Um, Avelaitixa is a mother, a full-time career woman, and the most phenomenal streamer I've ever met. She somehow manages to prove that women can be powerful and strong and brilliant mothers and also great at their jobs, and there's just so much knowledge and experience and advice that she has to give in this, and I really hope that it helps someone understand that it can be done, that it can be balanced, and let's just get into it. All right, so why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what you do and how you got there and how much you totally love it and never ever hate it?
Never hate it. So my name is Avelaitixa. I'm a variety streamer here on Twitch, and my friends call me Avel. As a profession, I am in corporate buying. So I manage the warehouse assortment of items that are available for your local retail location to purchase and bring in and have on the shelf for you every day.
Oh, gee, thanks.
Yeah, well, so I have been in corporate buying for, gosh, almost 7, 8 years now. So the better part of a decade. And I got into corporate buying coming out of college. So I originally started and I had a degree in general management and I went into retail. And I
Mhm.
was working in the field as a store manager. So for some very large box stores, some of which you would probably recognize, the biggest of whom being a red and white Target logo.
Oh.
Oops, I said Target.
Darn.
Whoops, let it slip. And so I did that for a couple of years and it was fun. But obviously, a retail uh, profession schedule is very, very difficult to work around. Nights, weekends, holidays, changing schedules, there's just no consistency there. And that was not something that I wanted in my life. As much as I enjoyed what I did, the variety in the day, lots of planning, working with people, you're always kind of challenged to be speedy and look at the different dynamics in the store. The scheduling piece was just became a breaking point for me. And so I made the transition out of field work, being in a store every day, to being in a corporate office, supporting the people in the stores every day. And that's kind of how I found my way into corporate buying.
So along that journey, now see, I know from you as my friend, I know that you've met the people that you love in your life through gaming. But I'm curious where in that journey you eventually found Twitch.
Yeah. So my husband, he and I have been together for a little over a decade, and we met playing World of Warcraft. So gaming has always been a large part of my life and especially our relationship. And he was always a Twitcher, and I did not understand it. I could not wrap my head around it. For the life of me, I couldn't get it. I was like, I don't understand why you want to watch somebody else play a video game. Like that's not fun to me. Where's the entertainment there? And I couldn't understand it.
Mhm.
And so, I used to give him crap about it all the time. And a couple years go by, and like I mentioned, we met in World of Warcraft. So I was an MMO gamer, which I think is a little bit different than your standard action story type game
Mhm.
because there's so much interactivity to it. And so I was playing Heroes of the Storm because there was a crossover event and there was a mount that I wanted. So he was playing this game, and I got into it. And I met a few other people who were playing it, and I was like desperately trying to rank up, right? When you live that bronze life and you know you're
Oh
better than
no.
bronze, but you just can't get out of it. I had reached out to my friends and they were like, okay, well, like, can you live stream it? and then we can give you real-time feedback, because if they were to just spectate the match, there would be delays, and so I wouldn't be able to get the live coaching that I needed from these friends of mine that were across the country. And so I started up a Twitch channel, and that's kind of how it was born. And then from there, it just blossomed into something amazing, something that I could have never anticipated or expected, but that I really, truly enjoy. It took that social aspect of MMO gaming for me and brought that into literally any game. So where I had been playing WoW to fill that social need, I was able to transition into any game, and I still had that interactivity to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it really made it, quite fun. And then obviously I've met wonderful people like the one and only Kitty Please,
Oh
um,
gosh.
that just have made it that it's a permanent part of my life now, and I don't think I could ever walk away from it completely.
Now I know at some point you were I know because I was watching you. You were like my nightly ritual at one point. You were streaming quite a bit because you were also a raid leader in WoW. How many hours a week at that point were you streaming, if you can remember offhand?
Oh gosh. Probably 20 to 25 hours a week I was streaming.
And you
Um,
were working full time on top of that, or?
yep. So I've
Oh
had a
gosh.
full-time job the entire time that I've been a streamer. But I was a late night gamer. I always
Mhm,
had been. So to flip the go live button while I was also playing was not a big deal for me. It's
mhm,
interesting though that you mentioned WoW, because that did become a point of contention, trying to balance my attention on WoW and the stream.
mhm.
And it actually got so bad the guild came to me and said, "You need to choose." And I didn't choose them.
Oh. I mean, I'm happy that you chose us you chose Twitch chat, but I'm sure I'm sure your guild did not feel the same way. But I can't imagine what that would be like, balancing trying to wrangle a whole raid team and also, keep an eye on Twitch chat and also like keep an eye on your work emails and just doing all of that at once. Like saying it, I watched you do it and it seemed like you had a handle on it, but saying it sounds so much crazier. you know.
Yeah, I like to be busy, but that was probably what I thought at the time was the peak of busyness. And I knew I wasn't doing everything up to a standard that I would have liked, and so something had to give. And
Mhm.
at the end, we parted on good terms. It was,
Mhm.
it was the right decision. Whatever temporary discomfort it caused, in the long run, it was better.
So before I ask you questions more about your big life change recently, beforehand, for those of you listening, Abel is the mother of the most gorgeous little baby girl. But before Babel, um, were you finding that you kept a pretty good balance between work, stream, and then what I call other, and what you fill other with, whether it be sleep, exercise, uh, in-person social life, pre-COVID? Like, did you find that you had a good balance back then, or do you think looking back that you definitely could have managed a bit better?
I think that in today's world, if I was doing it all over again, I might have made some different choices, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just because my priorities are different now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to kind of take a step backwards
Yeah.
into that time and place, that mental position that I was in. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think I balanced it pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I was streaming 20 to 25 hours a week. I was routinely staying up late, but that wasn't anything new for me. But I think having fun with it really brought a sense of energy to everything. Like I couldn't wait to get home from work, and I couldn't wait to go live, and I couldn't wait to watch my friends, because I was having so much fun doing it. So whether I sacrifice sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and I certainly sacrificed some sleep, or I wouldn't say I ever sacrificed work, but the house probably got messier. There were things like that that just kind of fell lower on the priority scale,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want to spend my quote unquote free time doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I wasn't live, I was still devoting a significant portion of my free time to all of those things that need to happen on the back end
Mm-hmm.
that nobody ever talks about.
Like your alerts and your socials and your Discord and that fun word networking that
Yep.
everybody seems to love so much. But
Yep.
when you got into it and when you were doing all of that, did you have a goal in mind, or was it really just because it was something that brought you joy, because it was something fun for you, because it filled that social meter, or was there a goal that you were working towards?
Yeah. First it was hit affiliate. From there, I just wanted to see continuous improvement and growth.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a platform that naturally lends itself to comparison.
Mm-hmm.
It is so easy to pull your stats and see where you're at compared to other people. But at the end of the day, that can be such a destructive mindset to be in. And so if I looked at my trends, and as long as my trends were headed in the right direction, I felt pretty good about what was happening. My job is a good job. I make good money. I support my family. Even back then, I had a mortgage, I had a husband, I had
Mm-hmm.
student loan debt. Um, I had responsibilities, and I wasn't going to just not pay my car payment, because I was spending too much money on video games or because I was relying on video games to support my car payment.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice if it happened. And there were certainly some months where I had good ice cream money, as we would call it. But it was never anything that I was going to count on
Mm-hmm.
in terms of being a full time streamer. So work always had to be, a priority in there. But from there, it was all bets are off. The rest is, what can we do that's fun today? And it may or may not be streaming.
I love that you didn't shy away from like that everybody wants to see growth, but that comparison is also, that thief of joy. I like that you focused in on like that your trends were going in a direction that you wanted to. It wasn't necessarily like, well, my trends aren't as much as this person's, or blah 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 blah. um that's a really fresh take that I actually really enjoy, that I think a lot of people could benefit to hear, that it doesn't necessarily mean, thank you, Hannah, please join the podcast. For those of you listening, my cat says hello. um I really appreciate that, because I think a lot of us get caught up in, you know, well, look at how much this person who started after me is growing, or look at how much this person who I've known and who's doing the same thing is like booming. Like, why aren't I booming? And that's such a dangerous game to play. And as you have said to me on many occasions, Twitch is a mind messer. You phrased it differently. You used a much different word than I did,
I
but it
might have
is.
used the 4-letter word, guys.
She might have. But
No,
I
it
appreciate
is.
that.
It is. It can definitely be a challenge. And I think it's important that people kind of break themselves out of their mindset. My therapist told me a very long time ago that you can only control the things that you can control. And so other people's success on Twitch is out of your control. So don't look at it and don't
Mm-hmm.
compare yourself to it. You're never going to know what kind of time they put in, what kind of time they don't put in, how much money they spend, and what you see is not always reality.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of those unknowns and all of those variables, you're just setting yourself up for failure if you try and go at it one to one in a comparison. So, what can you control? Your own schedule, your own time, your own investment. Those are the things that you can control, and that's what you should look at and compare yourself to.
I absolutely agree. I think there's a lot of um, idolizing the content creation life, but as you said, nobody talks about that back end stuff. Um, I've spoken to people who find it hard because they see quote unquote full time content creators doing this thing and that thing. Well, that's great because they have the time and the energy, and this is their career. you said so yourself, you're working a full-time job. You got stuff you got to do during the day. Boss man is not going to like it if you're making cute, uh, Charlie alerts when you're supposed to be making sales. Um, but I think that that's a really excellent point. I'm gonna keep that one in my back pocket.
Think about it.
In regards to actually, Boss Man, I know that you and I have talked a bit, but when you stream, have you ever felt that you had to restrict yourself in any way, or be a certain way on stream because of your profession, or do you feel that you are kind of, you have free reign, if that makes sense?
Yeah. And so I strive very hard to keep my stream separate. I don't really talk about it at work. There might be a few people who have some inklings of what I do, but they wouldn't know my channel name.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't know where to look for me. I don't advertise where I work for. You may have some vague details, so you could probably make a few educated guesses if you were a heavy, longtime listener of my content. Um, but chances are you probably won't put two and two together because I do make buying decisions for a corporate organization. I would be subject to um, investigations on whether my decisions were unbiased.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to have an outside relationship with my vendors outside of working hours. So, if for whatever reason somebody that I was trying to decide whether or not to buy their product for decided to stop by my Twitch stream, and let's say they did something absolutely absurd, like gifted 100 subs,
Mm-hmm.
which to me would be very significant. Um, would that change my opinion on whether I would bring their product in over somebody else's? Would I take away space from someone else to bring this person in because they did me a personal favor,
Gotcha.
um, so to speak? So I try really hard to keep it separate, but
Mm-hmm.
in terms of personality, I'm probably a lot freer. For those of you who have never been to my stream, I certainly don't hold back. It is a 18 and older, mature category. I make jokes. We get lewd. I swear. We drink on stream. We have a good time. And that is probably not the persona that I would put forward at work, just because it wouldn't be quite professional enough.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I didn't know that that was a thing. I've never considered that. I mean, I guess anybody who's customer facing would have to at some point consider something along those lines. But I think that just goes again to the whole keeping work and stream separate. I envy the people who can have that relationship with their boss. I've talked to some of them now where their boss knows that they stream, and like their coworkers know, and I think for me personally, I think that would be very strange. But you know, also something to keep in mind. But my biggest thing, and the thing I'm most excited to talk to you about is you being a mom. And I know that that was a huge shift for you guys. When I tell you she has literally the cutest daughter on the planet, I'm so sorry to all of you other children out there. You are probably gorgeous, just not as gorgeous as this one. Um, Tell me about that, what that was like. Was it something that you just tell me all about it. I can't even like start. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So Babel is the joy of my life. She's an absolute spitfire,
Mhm.
um, sassy and sarcastic and adorable. I have no idea where she gets it from. None whatsoever.
None. None.
Definitely no karma coming back to me there. Just kidding. It's all coming back to me. Um, no, Babel was the most unexpected, wonderful thing to ever happen to us. So we had been trying for a very long time, or maybe not a long time to other people, but a long time to us.
Mhm.
And it was heartbreaking. It was all I ever wanted to do was to be a mom and have a kid of my own, and to struggle was really challenging. And that's, I think, part of one of the reasons why I love Twitch so much too, because that was a distraction.
Mhm.
That helped me get through my crappy days when you go to the holiday and somebody else would announce that they're pregnant and you'd be like, but I want that. And you love
Mhm.
them and you're happy for them, but it's tough. And I think any
Yeah.
woman that's ever struggled with infertility,
Mhm.
even a little bit, can understand that. Um, so it was a tough thing, but it certainly came as a surprise. We had just put our house on the market. Work was going well. I had been promoted, a little bit sooner, maybe 9 months earlier. We were getting ready to move. Things were all headed in the right direction, and then bam, I'm pregnant. Let me tell you what, my Twitch schedule took a nosedive. I would
Mhm.
sit down on the couch after work. It'd be like 5 o'clock, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like sit here for a minute. Hawk would be making dinner, and then next thing you know, he'd be shaking me awake, and he's like, babe, it's 7:30. Like, are you going to bed? And I would go straight up to bed and sleep through the rest of the night. And it
Mhm.
took me a while to kind of figure out. I was like, I don't understand what's wrong with me. I think I need to go to the doctor. I need to get my thyroid checked. Like, I'm
Yeah.
so tired all the time. I'm dragging ass. And I thought I had just come off of a period of travel at work. And I thought, okay, maybe I'm just catching up. My system's resetting itself. I certainly don't sleep because all I do is, stay up late all night and play video games and hang out on Twitch. I was routinely getting 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night. And then it turned out I was pregnant, and it was the most wonderful thing in the world. But I just didn't have the energy to stay up for 3 to 4 hours a night
Mhm.
after work, after dinner, after taking care of the things I needed at the house. Like I couldn't do it.
Mhm.
And so I fell off the face of the Twitch planet for probably a good 6 months. Um,
I mean, it
I
does take a few months to make a baby.
Yeah. Growing a human is hard. People don't tell you how hard it is. Um, and it got really tough in my second and third trimester because my insomniac tendencies just turned into full blown insomnia. And so I
Mhm.
was hardly sleeping at night. I was taking naps during the day, still trying to keep up with work and ultimately preparing to go out for 3 months because my work, very fortunately has a very generous leave policy. Um, and so that's a long time in my profession to be out to
Mhm.
leave 100 vendors and 7,000 products unsupervised, so to speak. And I'm a one man band. I have a little bit of support. I have an assistant that kind of helps my entire department. I have my boss, but there was nobody that was going to be able to step in and understand some of the nuances and intricacies in my different departments and categories. So I had to really kind of button everything up and align the timing and get it all to a good spot before I could go out on leave. So it was a challenging 6 months, but we figured it out, made it happen, and then came Babel, and she's just been the light of my world.
It is, I applaud the fact that you mentioned, um, just as a side note, that they don't talk enough about how hard it is sometimes to conceive. I think they've built it up in our minds as women. It's like, oh, like when you want a baby, okay, you make a baby and then you have a baby. Like they don't talk to you about, the for a lot of
That's the
us it doesn't
Catholic
work that
school
easy.
upbringing.
Yeah.
I went to private school, and they preach at you, and you don't realize how much that kind of settles in
Mhm.
until you're in your 20s and trying to conceive, but they're like, you have unprotected sex one time and you're going to have a baby.
Mhm.
Well, not always.
I am so happy that Twitch could be there for you, um, through that, and I'm also sorry that as you know, growing a baby got difficult, that you had to sacrifice that a little bit. I would love it if you could speak to a bit about being a Twitch streamer who still loves streaming and who still loves streaming, but also was now the mom to a newborn. Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah. So I decided very early into my pregnancy that my schedule was whenever the F I felt like it,
Mhm.
when I had the energy,
Yeah.
when it made sense and I could make it work. So sometimes, somebody who had very consistently been Tuesday, Wednesday, sometimes Saturday and Sunday from 7 p.m. to God knows what time a.m. Um, very kind of regimented along those ways. And it was like, okay, we played this game on this day and this game on that day, give or take a few things here or there. I had just decided it's turn on your notifications, and when I go live, I go live,
Mm-hmm.
and you will be there if you want to be there. So by the time Babel came around, that was kind of a mentality that was already in place for us and something that we very easily kept in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I was off work, eh, babies they're needy. they're
Who knew, right?
they're right. Um,
You have to
they're
like
very
feed
needy.
them and like, burp them, change their diapers.
Yeah. It's a challenge. I mean, there's a learning curve to having a kid, right? And there's things that people don't always tell you, like how sore you'll be after you give birth, or how difficult it can be to breastfeed. And they just grow and change so quickly. Every time you kind of get into a rhythm and you think you've got it figured out a little bit, boom, they're rolling over. Boom, they're crawling. Boom, they're eating solid food. Boom, they're throwing solid food all over the kitchen. Boom, they don't like that food. They want this food. Boom, they see you eating using a fork and they want to eat with a fork. And then it's a stage 5 nuclear meltdown if you don't give them a fork. And so some days you just let them eat off your fork.
I love the escalation of that.
It's true though, and so
Mm-hmm.
trying to keep up with that, sometimes you learn to go with the flow, and sometimes you trust your instinct and your gut, and you're flying by the seat of your pants. But it's crazy, and so probably for the first, again, like 6 months, streaming was sporadic. Until she started sleeping through the night on a consistent basis. And I caught up on sleep, and I caught up on being back at work since being out on maternity leave, because some stuff goes hanky when you're gone for 3 months,
Oh yeah.
let alone 3 hours sometimes. So, it took a while to get our feet under us and get into a rhythm. And then, sure enough, the pandemic hit. And so, if it wasn't enough major life change to come back from, you know, being out and having a baby and going back to work, we had the pandemic through the whole midst of that too. So trying to figure out, how do I juggle all of these things? Like, now I'm back home with my baby and I'm working. So, where you used to have these predefined spaces, it's okay. Now my house is everything. So how do
Mm-hmm.
I figure that out and make that work and still have some time for me to be able to do something that I wanted to do? And so finally, probably towards the end of the summer, we've gotten to a point where we're a little bit more in a rhythm. And it's challenging because some of my friends have kids on Twitch and some of them don't. And some
Mm-hmm.
of them kids are older and so they have a little bit more freedom. So, we kind of run the gambit. But even, just recently trying to schedule some co streams. I have a bunch of friends on the East Coast, even scheduling this interview, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're East Coast and I'm Central. So, that's an hour difference right there. And when I tell people I can't start till 8 o'clock my time because I have to get the baby in bed and settled and actually sleep before I can come down and boot up all of my stuff. And God forbid there's any updates, or
Yeah.
anything that I needed to do. It's at least 8, if not 8:30, and that's a late start for some people who maybe started streaming at 7 or 6 or 6:30, right? At
Mm-hmm.
post dinner, if they don't have another conflict, they can just start their stream or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to like find the dates and the times that work for everybody, you can definitely see it, and there's the ones that get it and the ones that don't, um, the ones that have lived through it. So my parent friends are better than others, and sometimes they laugh and tease me and say I have no sympathy for you because I've been there.
But I mean, did they have to, you know, be there and also, run a Twitch chat and also work from home and also live through a pandemic? I feel like you get a little bit more on them in that regard if they ever throw that one at you again.
Thank you. I wear it as a badge of pride. I am forever grateful for the extra time with her.
Hmm.
Who else gets to say that they can be home for 6+ months with their brand new baby?
Mhm.
before they have to kind of send them out into the world and trust basically a total stranger to take care of them. People don't tell you how hard that is. So I'm forever grateful for the extra time with her and all the wonderful things I got to experience.
Mhm.
I wish it was under different circumstances.
Yeah. I think everybody can agree to that for sure. But I applaud you so much, and I think that for some of us who sit here and we get hard on ourselves about our schedule or our streams or this or that, like I would love for them to take a look at somebody like you who has made a human, is raising a human, is working full time. You have a relationship with your husband that I think is hysterical. Um, and you're making it work in your own way. And somebody said to me recently to measure the things that we have accomplished instead of the things that we want to accomplish. And I think that if we put all of the things you have done in the past year on a scale, that thing would tip like a seesaw. So I'm so incredibly impressed and proud to know you. And I just think you need to hear that too sometimes.
Thank you.
Do you
You're gonna make me
see?
cry.
No, I don't. Oh, I'll play the Golden Girls sound for you. It'll be fine. Do you see yourself, since you are, and I feel like maybe this is a new thing. Instead of like the mean girls, I'm not a regular mom, I'm a cool mom. I'm not a regular mom, I'm a Twitch mom. Do you see yourself getting her into gaming when she's old enough? Like getting her into like the sort of gaming world? Or do you want to see if she finds her way there on her own?
um, so she's already there.
Oh no.
She has not only figured out how to turn on the Xbox controller, but she knows how to push on the joysticks and she likes to press the button.
Oh.
And she gets mad if you take one of the batteries out, so she's not constantly pausing your show. But she gets it, right? So
Mhm.
she sees us and she sees us playing games on our phone and playing on the computer, and they see that. They watch you and they learn scary quick, right? Like turning
Mhm.
on the Xbox controller, she shouldn't know how to do that. But she does, and she's not even one yet. So I don't think I could keep her from the gaming
World if you tried.
world if I tried. What I will say is it's my job as her parent to expose her to a variety of things. So gaming, just because it's something that I love, doesn't mean that it has to be something that she loves. I hope that she'll share the same enjoyment that I have gotten from it, and we can play games together, whether that's board games or electronic games. But you know, Hawk and I both played sports when we were little. My family's huge into music. There are all sorts of wonderful things once the world gets back to normal,
Yeah.
if there is such a thing as normal, that I want to expose her to. And whatever makes her happy, as long as it's not hurting somebody else, I don't care. I'll figure out how to make it work.
That's so sweet. That just made my heart so big. So, given all of that, given, everything that you're tackling, what does an average day look like for you, hour-wise? Like break it down. Like,
Yeah. So lately, the baby gets up between 6 and 7. I'm very fortunate to have a wonderful husband who gets up with her, and 3 days out of the week, we'll get up, get her dressed, and take her to daycare and drop her off for me. So I have time to get up and kind of, get coffee, get right with the world, and get to work. My technical start time, if we were keeping hours, would be 8 a.m.
mhm.
And then most people knock off at 5:30. But I'm salary, so I'm flexible. Sometimes I'm sending emails at 6 o'clock at night, or 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. So I don't worry too much about logging in, until I need to. And my boss's attitude is, as long as my job is done, he doesn't really care one way or another. So usually we log in, we have some coffee. I sort through my emails, figure out when my meetings are, chat a little in Discord, say good morning to my friends, complain about how crappy I slept the night before, share a cute picture of the baby, maybe scroll social media, a thing or two here and there. And then I jump into some work for a couple hours. I usually take lunch sometime in the late afternoon. I'm a late eater, like a 1:30 kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm at home, I might sneak in a game of Dead by Daylight during my lunch. And then usually I take care of a few more emails. I have some meetings or some projects I'm working on. My workday ends around 5 now. That's when Hawk's workday also ends, and we will go and grab the nugget together. We pick her up from daycare. We come home, we try and figure out dinner. We've now thoroughly entered the witching hour for children. So, for those of you who are parents, know exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you that don't, um, the witching hour is this wonderful time when the kids are crabby and hungry, and they know that you're stressed and trying to decompress from being off of work, and you're also trying to get dinner on the table, and they can't wait for that dinner. So, they're just going to be jerks for like an hour or two. It's this awful like period that happens every day. And that's when the electronic babysitters come out and you just throw a handful of goldfish crackers at them and hide around the corner, um,
No.
until you get through it. Um, so we do dinner, and then we have some time to kind of cuddle and play. So we read books, we play with the Duplo blocks, her little stacking rings, her stuffed animals, whatever. Maybe do some laundry somewhere in there, put away dinner. And then around 6:30 we take her up. If it's a bath night, we'll do a bath. um, and that's the point where, if it's a stream night for me, while she's in the bath, usually my husband will sit with her. I'll start doing my makeup, I'll start doing my hair. I'll think about, what am I wearing, and is that what I want to wear on stream?
Mhm.
Because I do like to look good and feel good, and you have to kind of put on your armor, so to speak.
Yep.
um, so you kind of start to don that persona, and then we get her dressed in her jammies, kind of settled down. We might give her one more bottle. We're obsessed with Coco Melon. It's one of her favorites. If you've never heard of it, it's these cute little animated kids songs. I think they started on YouTube, but they've recently imported to Netflix, and so we listen to 3, 4 songs, and somewhere in between like 7, 7:30, we try and put her down. If that goes successfully, and some nights it does not, then I can sneak off and do my thing. And then it's up in the air from there. Sometimes I call stream, at like 11 or 11:30 because I'm tired, and you know, other times it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm kicking myself because I know I have to get up in 3 hours and I'm going to be really punished, and it's going to take me a while to come down from stream. So.
Oh gosh. Nobody talks about that come down from like stream, that natural high that you get like from a stream, and then when it ends you can't just like, okay, now I'm gonna go lay down and go to bed. It doesn't matter how tired you are, like you need to unwind.
Yeah, I if that person exists who can just turn off stream and close their eyes and immediately pass out, I have not met them. I certainly am not that person. There's something about it, and I can't quite put my finger on it, and I've not been able to figure it out. It doesn't matter if I drink coffee or tea or water or booze. It doesn't matter,
Nope.
how comfortable I am, if I'm using my studio lights or not. It routinely takes me at least an hour to kind of decompress from stream, enough to get to the point where my body is relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't quite know what it is. Is it like the Zoom fatigue that they talk about, where you're playing a game, you're reading chat, you're watching your stats, you're checking that your upload hasn't tanked, you haven't dropped frames. If your brain is just going at 1,000 miles a minute because of the amount of multitasking that happens when you're streaming, or if it's the blue light from the monitors, or if I'm just a weirdo who gets oddly invested in these things. um but it takes a little bit of time to decompress from stream, and be able to have that restful mindset where you can drift off into sleep and not wake up in a panic and say,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god, I got a raid, or whatever.
No, I think that's definitely a really real thing, and I can't imagine, bless you for the nights you accidentally stream until like 2 in the morning and then you wake up with your baby in a few hours. It's one thing to know like you have to get up, for work in a few hours. It's another altogether a whole other animal when you're waking up because there's this tiny human who is depending on you. I can't even imagine that level of exhaustion. But I also think it's really important that you do have that time for you, because you're not just a mom, you're not just an employee, you're not just a husband, you're also you. And I'm glad that you, in your journey towards harmony, you kept the thing that was important for you, that like, was still important for just Avel, not just, the mom or the really awesome worker, like the really fantastic, super wonderful Hawk should buy you flowers wife. Like, you know what I mean? I think that's important.
Yeah. No, it's tough, right? If you want to bring your best self, right? That's the lingo these days, or bring
Mm-hmm.
your whole self. Um, your best self is one that is fulfilled. And so you have to figure out where that comes from. I am not a person who is inherently fulfilled by the work that I do. I am not saving babies. I am not curing cancer. I am not feeding the hungry. I like my job. It's challenging, it's interesting, but I am not inherently fulfilled as a person by doing it. Um, for me, that comes from my family, my relationship with my daughter, and my hobbies. Like, that's what brings me joy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some people have that calling, and all the power to them. I'm just not one of them. So for me, not to make any space for streaming or gaming would be very difficult. I would be essentially a multitasking robot, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's no fun there. Like, I would just be exhausted and annoyed and tired.
Mm-hmm.
You have to laugh, you have to smile, you have to do the things that make you joy, even if it's only for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
um, or on your lunch break, or whatever, you take off a day here or there. Don't be afraid to lean on others for support. Hawk gets up with the baby, and I am forever grateful for him for that, because that's 5 more minutes that I can sleep or scroll Twitter on my phone, or catch up on Discord messages, whatever the case might be. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do it without the support system that I have in place, and I will be forever grateful for
You hear that, Hawk? Are you listening?
that.
For those listening, Hawk is the gamer tag of her husband. I probably should have clarified that earlier in the podcast, but now you know. If you have really strong inferencing skills, you picked up on it already. Um, but one of the later questions I wanted to ask you was when you first started Twitch. I know it was something for you to make you happy, to fill that void, to for that social media for companionship. Have you found that Twitch and your views and your attitudes towards Twitch changed once you had a child, or did you find that that didn't really impact your opinion one way or the other?
um, yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
So she's my life and my world, and if something ever happened, or she needed me, like, I would quit Twitch in a heartbeat. I would be sad about it.
Mm-hmm.
um but it's hard to describe until you've been there, how much having a kid flips your life upside down. Like, I live and die for her approval and her happiness, and all I ever want is to make her and every other sad child and every sad photography photograph that you've ever seen,
Yeah.
like, happy in my entire life. Like, I watch disaster movies and cry because there's always like that one mom shielding her kid. um
Oh.
I'm sorry, I just brought the mood down. Let
No,
me bring it back up.
no. But that's the
um
honesty that we need. That's the openness that I think is important.
So, she's my world. And it sounds so cliche, and anybody that knew me probably before I had Babel would not have guessed me to be this way. You wouldn't think that I was um so much in love with somebody like this, but it's just a total mind messer to
Mm-hmm.
put it PC.
Yeah. Thank you.
Or PG, I should say.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. Um, but yeah, no. So I mean, she's my everything from that standpoint. So I would be sad to walk away from Twitch, but I would do it for her if she needed me to.
Mhm.
Um, luckily we have such a family and such a support system, and she is a smart, happy, healthy kid. That I think it's important for her that I set that example that it's important for all of us to make time for the things that make us happy.
Mhm.
Um, I owe that to her to say that you should not be somebody that is so sacrificing that you never do anything for yourself, right? And we all know those people who
Mhm.
give and give and give and give until there's nothing left. Sometimes you have to make for yourself, and that is okay. It does not make you a bad person. It's about filling up your meter and putting on your own oxygen mask. You have to do it. And I'm not being a good parent if I'm not setting that example for her and showing her
Mhm.
that it's okay to take time for yourself. It's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person. The world's not going to end because you do it. It makes you a better person. It makes you a happier person.
I think that's awesome. I think that's a great example for anybody to set for anyone, let alone their own child. And I think it's really great that, you know, you're still you. I was curious, and again, as someone who has not had children, it's always interesting to sort of hear that perspective because you wonder, well, is that stuff still important now? Because like you said, you can't explain to someone who hasn't had a child what that feeling is like. So it's almost a curiosity thing of, well, are the things that were important to you before her still important? And it sounds like the answer is yes, just it's very clear that, she is the the love of your little life, and she's I wish I could put people listening can't see a picture of her, but if you saw her, you would understand. But I actually have a Twitch question.
Yeah.
Um, so now that it seems like, and I know we're coming up on her 1 year birthday, which is crazy for me. I swear to God, you just popped her out like a month ago in my mind.
Me
Um,
too.
what do you want for your Twitch channel now? Is it still just a place where you're looking for that, like, oh, thank God it's my me time? Or is there something you're looking to achieve? Or is there a goal that you're reaching towards, Or is it that you're looking to get more of a routine back? Like, what is your streamer life looking like now that things are leveling out a little bit? I say that knock on wood. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I am the kind of person that I do enjoy setting goals.
Mhm.
I like to look at stats. I don't, get too caught up in them. Everybody has their moments, right, where they get jealous or, they kind of struggle to compensate. Why is this person doing better than me,
Mhm.
or whatever.
Mhm.
I've been there, but I think it's something I just want to prove maybe to myself that I can get back up to that same level of where I was before. Obviously, taking the better part of a year off
Mhm.
impacts your numbers, your viewership, your interactivity. Certainly the financials. Once you lose a viewer, it's very difficult to get them back.
Mhm.
Um, unless you're that dynamite that they are waiting for the second you go live to jump to your channel. And there certainly were some of those people, and I
Mhm.
am forever grateful to them, that didn't lose faith, right? But it'll certainly show you an extended break like that, who was in it because of you and your content, and who was in it because they think you could give them something.
Yeah.
They were looking for your raids when they were big, or they were networking.
I hate that word.
so
I really do.
so to speak. I know. It's weird, but it's eye-opening and kind of
Mhm.
nice in that way that you can, figure out where people's values and priorities lie, and you can make
Mhm.
sure that that matches up to your own. So for me, I think it's a matter of consistency. I want to get back to a more normal schedule, and I think I've been doing a decent job with that.
Mhm.
I'd like to see some growth, to see my numbers kind of back where they were before I took a break. It really felt good, and I was pretty happy about the trajectory that I was on, before I took a break. And this wasn't exactly planned, right? As I mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, this one kind of came out of left field, and I'm thrilled, over the moon. I wouldn't change the way it worked out ever, but it wasn't something that I had a lot of time to kind of wrap my head around.
Hmm.
Um, where we said, okay, we're gonna start trying, and I need to, wrap my head around the brain that like my relationship to Twitch might have to change. I didn't get time to kind of mentally process that. It
Hmm.
just kind of caught me off guard, and it was a little bit of a whoopsie baby, but um, I wouldn't have it any other way.
She is the cutest little whoops baby I have ever did seen.
Pretty cute.
I
Think we're gonna keep
appreciate
her.
I appreciate you being so like open and honest about this because I just feel like there's so much to Twitch life that people don't talk about. Like there's no way, and granted you're the first person that I know, but there's no way you're the only person who's been streaming who is like, okay, now I'm pregnant. Now what is that going to do to my stream, to my community? You know, like I don't think I could go somewhere and find a place other than maybe like a mom and dad like streaming community um to like see those perspectives and hear those things. So I think it's really important for voices like yours to be heard because I know somewhere out there in the Twitch world there is a future mom, you know, going through and sort of feeling the same things that you went through. Um
Yeah.
so I guess my final question to you would be, you know, now that you've lived this, you've, you know, dug yourself out of, you know, God, I can't get off the couch. I'm so tired. Why am I tired too? You know, here's this beautiful little girl that I'm raising and, you know, I'm kicking butt at work and I'm getting my the Twitch schedule back. We probably need to work on your sleep schedule. I will just throw that out there. But now that you've kind of found your own version of harmony because as I've grown through this process of meeting all these wonderful people, I'm realizing that harmony is different for everybody and that what is harmonious and balanced for you would be utter chaos for others. But now that you've sort of found that or you're on your way to finding that, if you could say something to the moms that are trying to do this or the future moms trying to do this, if you could say one thing to them to help get them through this and show them that they can still work and they can still stream and they can still be, you know, a mom, what would you say to them?
I would say be patient and be forgiving. Be patient with your kids. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with your future. It is a process. It takes time to figure out your kids' routines, your routines. Where can you trim 5 minutes here to do socials? Where can you trim 5 minutes there to make dinner and make sure that Bobby and Susie have their homework done? Um, where can you trim 5 minutes to buy your next game or pop into somebody's stream? That stuff takes time to figure out how to balance, and you have to be patient and willing to tinker and try new things and see if it worked, and not get frustrated and upset with yourself. Be forgiving. If you get to the end of the day, if you work your butt off and you had a crap day and the kids are finally in bed and they're in sleep and you pour yourself a glass of wine and you think, oh crap, it's a stream night. If you're not feeling it, don't get off the couch. Put your feet up, drink that glass of wine, watch your favorite show, and forgive yourself a night off. Your community will understand. That is the difference between being a streamer and some faceless video on YouTube. You're a real person. And people understand that we're real people that sometimes have moments. I'm not saying that you should bring that to stream because that's not the best content. We all have our moments, but generally people want to go and kind of step away out of their life for a minute. But if you need a break, take a break. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up on it and don't beat up other people for doing
I think that's awesome. I give that an A plus response.
it.
It has been so wonderful to chat with you. Thank you so much for being willing to come on here and be open and honest with me. And I'm kicking myself now because on top of everything else this lovely woman does, she also runs a Twitch community called the Twitch Bar, which you can find on Discord. But if you ever do want to check out this rock star of a human being, you can find her at twitch.tv/AVELAITIXA. And it has taken me 3 whole years to figure out how to spell that right.
Yay, you did it!
I did it.
10 out of 10, most complicated name on Twitch.
Thank you so much. And I hope you and your little one have the most epic of first birthdays, despite COVID.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend, very safe, happy holidays. Um, I wish you all the best in the world. You truly are one of my best friends. And this was a wonderful experience. And I really appreciate you having me.
Oh, do not make me cry. We're going to end right here so I don't cry.